Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brian Plays. Today I will be showcasing a game for you called The Simpsons, Bart Vs The World. And who knows what's going to happen, but watch Facebook mute my video because of the Simpsons music. I don't really understand why, though. But, you know, we'll find out. So, basically, it's the Krusty the Clown show, which will be airing what happens in the video game. Seeing Sideshow Mel there kind of gives you an indication that this took place after Sideshow Bob was thrown in jail. And of course, the Bart Simpson drawing is the big winner, because I don't think anybody wants to play a game starring Flanders Kids or Martin Prince. And of course, Mr. Burns was the big villain in the early days of The Simpsons. So he was often the antagonist in video games. So basically, on the Krusty the Clown show, Bart wins an opportunity to participate in a round-the-world scavenger hunt. But, as you just read there, the contest has been rigged by Mr. Burns' assistant, Smithers, in order for Burns to rid himself of the Simpson family for all the trouble they have caused him over the years. So it's kind of a weird plot, but you know, as long as you throw a Simpsons character in there, kids will buy the game. So, this game was developed by Imagineering and was published by Acclaim, which is a popular game company. That's one of the Krusty unique items that you have to get. So, with Bart traveling around the world, which is really only a few select places, China, the North Pole, Egypt, and Hollywood. So, you know, there's so many other places that the game developers could have had Bart go to. But those are the 4 that they chose. And along the way, family members from the Burns clan try to ruin Bart's day. There were other games that were out featuring The Simpsons, notably Bart versus the Space Mutants, I think it was called. and the Simpsons arcade, which is very, very popular. But this game was released in 1991, and by then Simpsons mania was everywhere. They had already finished 2 seasons, so the Simpsons were really coming into their own. So a lot of the merchandise that came out was really popular in the late 80s, early 90s. Now, besides the levels, I hate sliding puzzles, but there's a lot of puzzles that you can play rather than just do the levels. It's all about points, and if you complete these puzzles, you get Krusty heads, and every a certain amount of points that you get an extra life. These aren't necessary to beat in the game. You really just have to beat the levels and get the unique Krusty item. This is like a memory game. It's funny that, you know, you could really tell this is early in the show's running because they got Dr. Marvin Monroe. He's not really popular at all. In fact, he's dead on the show. There you go. I think this is the most interesting puzzle game because the questions are based on the television show. So if you bought the game but never even watched The Simpsons, you'll never get these. And, you know, these are answers that, you know, you see from seasons 1 and 2. I always enjoyed the Great Wall of China. There's Lisa. But, it's so difficult to line yourself up to go into the doorways. And you often bounce off the wall. You have to be pixel perfect. These jumps were difficult too, because if you skidded out on those, I guess, potholes, that's a unique Krusty item. Then you would slow down, and then you'd have to back yourself up to get off the ramp. Now, I have the instruction manual for this game, but I don't feel like getting it out. But all of these items have a point total with the gems and the soft drink and everything else. See? It's hard to line yourself up. The boss fights in this game are fairly easy. That's Fu Manchu Burns. Basically just hit him when the fan closes. And then Krusty will give you a grade for everything. He'll add up your points and give you lives based on the score. So you see how it's not necessary, but it's important to do the puzzles if you want to keep adding more lives. Now, like most NES games, there's no save feature, so you really got to play the game in one shot. The abominable snow burns. Now, a lot of kids enjoyed the Simpsons games because of the show, but these weren't the most greatly reviewed games. The controls are very slippery. When you jump, they're herky-jerky. And jumping and running are still mapped onto the A button, something that they didn't fix. That was also a problem in Bart Vs The Space Mutants. This game has poor collision detection, and you know, the level design leaves a lot to be desired. Like, there's so many jumps in this game. I mean, this is a true platformer for all the wrong reasons. Here's a unique Krusty item. Marge helps you. Now, there are some cases where you can screw up getting the Krusty item, and if you don't get it, you'll never get the good ending of the game. It's one of those games when you beat the game and then you find out you didn't do something right, and then the game ends, and then you have to go back and do it all over again. So that didn't float well with people. Also, if you lose all your lives, you have to start the game from the beginning. There's no continues. There's a lot of cryptic things in the game too that you have to figure out. It looks more like radioactive waste than water. But the hardest part of this game is the jumping. And you'll see later on too that there's just so many jump-in areas, repetitive backgrounds, but it's still a nostalgic game if you played it as a kid. And that's the only redeeming factor. These are the worst puzzles too. Remember as a kid, you used to have like these plastic sliding puzzles and you'd want to break the pieces out and just put them in manually. This level reminds me of Super Ghouls and Ghosts Level 2, where you're riding on the raft. You have to jump and it gives you momentum, but you also have to be careful, because you can fall right off the rock or the iceberg. There's another unique Krusty item. This game was also ported to the Amiga, the Atari ST, Game Gear, and Sega Master System. But it was never given a Super Nintendo redo. I mean, by the time this game came out, Super Nintendo had come out. There's the Abominable Snowburns. It's basically a whack-a-mole. There's a lot of... it's a cliche for boss fights, the whack-a-mole. I never owned Bart Vs The Space Mutants, but I did have this game, obviously. And I also had the Game Boy version of Bart Escapes Camp Krusty. That was another frustrating game. Burns has some family tree. That will be, that's his maternal granduncle, Ramses Burns. The Bartman was pretty cool to have in the game. These levels are very generic, and it looks like you could put any character in these levels. This is obviously like many games that you've seen, like Super Mario Land and Battletoads and many other games. There's your unique Krusty item. And that answers from the first ever episode. Yeah, I don't think Sabu or Shlomo works at the Quickie Mart. don't have a cow, man. That head, by the way, is the head of Jebediah Springfield. A lot of people might not be familiar with that. There was a season 1 episode of The Simpsons that showed Bart cutting the head off of the statue. If you have Disney Plus now, obviously you can watch every season of The Simpsons. And I used to have The Simpsons on DVD. I have the first 7 seasons. And I basically feel that like the first 3 seasons were the greatest. But you can even go as far as year 8 or year 9. And then I never really watched The Simpsons then weekly like I did when I was younger. And obviously the quality, the stories aren't as good as the beginning, the earlier days, but maybe I'll give them a shot and watch them on Disney Plus and judge for myself. But you always hear the consensus of people say that the first few years were the best, and The Simpsons haven't been good the last 20 years. The scale of this room is huge. But I always enjoyed watching The Simpsons on DVD and listening to the commentary. But it's crazy now how even the commentary now is almost 20 years old. These DVDs came out in like 2000, 2001. If you go into the ear of the Sphinx, it leads to the exits. Your ammo that you use, those are firecracker balls, by the way. That's probably one of the funnier moments, seeing Homer hanging on the Krusty Sphinx. And all that, and you get a unique Krusty item. I mean, I can just imagine an episode in real life where Homer's hanging in the mouth of a Sphinx. Here's Ramsey's Burns. It's an easy boss fight once you figure out what you have to do. Just keep grabbing his loose thread on his rug. I mean, instead of made up family members or the Burns family tree, I think it would have been a lot more fun to fight Burns and other characters like Nelson. And now we head to Hollywood. Oh, and another Simpsons game that I had as a kid was Krustys House for Super Nintendo. That was basically a clone of the Lemons game. So it wasn't really an action game, it was more of a puzzle game. And you had to guide the mouse into the mouse crusher or zapper or whatever level you were on dictated what weapon you used to eliminate the mice. So we're already up to the last world. So basically these are like sets, like a Hollywood set. I mean, you could go anywhere in the world and you're already up to a second battleship. This is some drunk sailors. There used to be Game Genie codes for this game. I think you could have infinity ammo, infinity lives. Because it was a tough game, especially when navigating the jumps. It always felt like you were skating on ice. There should be a Krusty item at the top. There's Maggie. And there you go. Another Krusty unique item. It's funny when I used to watch The Simpsons, I used to relate to Bart. And then as you get older, you really you feel for Homer more than Bart. Bart becomes an annoying brat, and you relate more and more to Homer. Although it seems like Homer's IQ gets lower and lower each season. There's no skill for this minigame. You just pick a lucky coffin. Now, if you pick the wrong coffin, a snake comes out and just bites Bart in the face. And Bart just stands there looking miserable. So this is pretty much like the set of a horror movie. mean, the makers did have an imagination for the game. Bart must have steel soles in his shoes. The Smithers ghost is really funny. And that's all I'm going to say on that. That might be the funniest visual in the game. That's basically like getting the star in Mario. These are like warps. Such a weird sound. Now, this room is a nightmare. There are so many jumps here. There's got to be at least 100 jumps in this room. And if you just make one misstep and fall all the way to the bottom, you're done. If you make a mistake, you really got to try to line yourself up with the platforms below you. But this is probably the hardest part of the game. And if you ever played this and jumped, you realize how slippery it is. And what I like to do is when I jump, I kind of like to flick the controller back in the opposite direction and then flick it forward. I do that for a lot of games. It kind of like centers you. Sometimes it's better to take a hit than try to dodge it and fall off. Everything looks the same too. You might think that your game is glitched, but just keep on jumping. The worst thing you can do is pause the game and then come back and then think you're going in the right direction. Just having jumps like this, it's just lazy game design. It's like they just had to rush this level, and so they just decided to repeat the same platforms over and over. Now, can you imagine just falling over here? Homer. Another unique Krusty item. And thank God this game doesn't have any pushback when you get hit like that. If this was like Castlevania, you fly off the ledge and it'll be over there. And this is a fun mini game with Mo. It's like Mo's trying to get his revenge on the prank calls Bart makes. No, I don't remember Mo wearing a cowboy hat. Unless this is like Hollywood Mo and he's trying to be the owner of a saloon. Now, if you mess up in these games and you lose, it's okay. You just miss out on the Krusty head points. So, this is a special level. This is for getting all the Krusty items. The unique Krusty items. And that's the happy little elves. I believe that might be Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons. You have to admit that this is pretty cool. No, is that Itchy? I always remember that Scratchy's the cat because Scratchy has the word cat in it. Yes, it is Scratchy. Here we go. Here's Eric Von Burns. probably the toughest boss in the game. If you ever run out of ammo too, you always get a replacement. They might as well just give you infinity ammo. Bodacious. So I would say the key to the game is to collect the Krusty heads and do the puzzles. So here's the point of the game where they would tell you that you didn't find all the unique Krusty items, but since all of the items were found, you get a special ending. In addition to that level that we just saw. And there's no fight with Mr. Burns at the end or Smithers, but the big reward is coming up. Well, that's basically it. No reason why they wouldn't just stop standing there. So you can just pie them as long as you want. And thanks for watching, everybody.